I will allocate 28 minutes for each of the paper, followed by question and answers. And we will be strict on the timing because we have so much discussion for the remaining of the day. The first paper is on how pre-employment information predict teachers' performance. And the second paper is on how decentralization affect education outcome. The third, but not least, on the effect of conditional cash transfer on education aspiration. Before we continue, let me read our grand rules. First, participants are allowed to post questions within the Zoom chat box or verbally. I, ordered by the organizers, should prioritize participants who wish to pose questions verbally. But I will select one or two quality questions from the Zoom chat box as well. Please, one person speaks at a time so that we don't have conflict of talks. And please always mute yourself whenever you are not talking. And be concise and respectful of others wishing to comment. We attack the problem, but not the person. So let's do a productive discussion on the three topics today. And do not multitask so that we have full attention from you, and let's stick to the agenda. Without further ado, let me ask the first presenters to present their papers. I will not read their CVs because we can see in the conference tools that the organizers already provided. Please, Asri, Yusrina, Bima, Luhur Bima, Emilie Berkhout, and Daniel Suryadarma. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Titi. Allow me to share screen. Okay, I hope you all could see my the PowerPoint. Good day, everyone. My name is Asri, and I'm presenting a working paper from SMERU RISE program about selecting teachers in Indonesia, predicting teacher performance using pre-employment informations. This is a joint paper that I wrote with my colleague Luhur Bima, Emilie Berkhout from Amsterdam Institute for Global Health and Development, and Daniel Suryadarma from ADB. So Indonesia has implemented a range of education reforms since the teacher law. However, those reforms have not addressed the learning crisis. The 2018 PISA result shows that the competency of students in reading and mathematics are still low. One of the possible reasons for this learning crisis is the low teacher quality. As indicated in a study by Roser in 2015, the teachers scored below the passing threshold in their competency tests. Our qualitative studies in RISE program shows that the causes of low teacher quality include teacher recruitment that lacks of mechanism to ensure quality. And in the case for in-service teachers, their training has not been effective in improving their quality. Based on those previous studies in RISE program, we believe that the selections of individuals who will become teachers is a potential way to identify effective and motivated teachers that may improve learning outcomes. Identifying such teachers is relatively more cost effective because not only it avoids the financial costs of training or dismissing poorly performing teachers, but also decrease student exposure to ineffective instructions. Most studies about teacher selections are found in developed countries. Those studies use informations collected at the time of hire or informations from teacher education programs admission criteria to predict teacher subsequent performance. The informations or criteria used includes undergraduate grades, written tests, interviews, and teaching practice score. While most studies on teacher selections comes from developed countries, studies on teacher selections in developing countries are virtually non-existent. In this study, we examined whether selection criteria into the PPG program or the Teacher Professional Education Program can predict candidates' performance at the end of the program and their performance in a real classroom setting. There are two teacher professional programs in Indonesia, but in the study, we focus on the pre-service PPG. It is an additional one-year program to the four-year bachelor's degree in educations. Candidates who have less than 5 years of teaching experience prior to pre-service PPG can choose to enroll the program or go straight into the workforce. After they graduate, they receive a teaching certificate, which will be beneficial when they're applying as civil servant teacher. However, the program graduates are not guaranteed to obtain jobs. They have employment options to become a civil servant teacher, a private teacher, or an honorary contract teacher. The selections of into PPG is carried out through successive filters. If they pass the administrative requirements, they proceed to the online test, and if they score above 50 on the overall online test, they proceed to the interview phase. If teacher candidates are accepted, they will undertake a semester of in-class workshops and another semester of internship. Upon completion, they should pass exit exams. But even if they failed on their first attempts in the exit exams, they can retake the test, and eventually all candidates are graduates. We focus on the pre-service PPG program for primary school teachers to predict their performance at the end of the program. We have data on 1,291 individuals who graduate from the programs. It is about 30% of the applicants that pass the administrative requirements. To predict teacher performance after they graduate from the program or when they are in a real classroom setting, we were tracing 363 teacher candidates from 7 teacher college in Java Island. The reason why we only choose 7 teacher college is because we assume that the program graduate will work as teachers in surrounding cities or districts in Java. So it will be less difficult and less costly to visit them. We make phone surveys to the 363 program graduates, but we could only reach about 110 graduates. We plan to visit those graduates at schools in January to March in 2020, but due to COVID, we have to postpone the survey and only able to collect data on 32 graduates who are homeroom teachers and collect data of 820 students who are taught by the teachers. So we use student learning assessments in numeracy and literacy and classroom observations instrument developed by researchers in the RISE program to measure teacher performance in the real classroom setting. To predict teacher candidates' performance at the end of the programs, the dependent variables are the exit exam scores, and our variable of interest are the admission criteria. While to predict performance after they graduate in the real, their performance in the real classroom setting, the dependent variables are the learning outcomes in numeracy and literacy of students taught by the PPG graduates. And we also use the proportions of instructional time of specific teaching aspects of each teachers from our classroom observation data. We found that when controlling for other factors, the overall online test result is significantly correlated with the knowledge test results, and that the interview is significantly correlated with teaching practice tests. One standard deviations higher in overall online test score is associated with 0.3 standard deviations higher in knowledge test scores, while one standard deviation higher in overall online test score is associated with the 0.07 standard deviations higher of teaching practice scores. The undergraduate GPA also predict both exams. The correlations between the undergraduate GPA with the teaching practice tests, as you can see, it's smaller than it does with the knowledge test. But it also shows that the undergraduate GPA is just as good in predicting teaching practice. We also use a data set of the 363 teachers and find similar findings. In predicting teacher performance after they graduate from PPG, we found no correlations between the admission criteria and their student numeracy or literacy scores. And similarly, we found no correlations between exam performance and student numeracy or literacy scores. In terms of predicting teacher performance using the classroom observation data, we found positive correlations between overall online tests and the proportions of time that teachers use to make connections in teaching using previous content or daily activities. And the interview correlates with the proportions of time that teachers use to ask open-ended questions. As you can see, most of the teacher admission criteria and exam scores are insignificant to predict teaching practice. This might be due to the small number of samples and that we don't have. And we also do not have the degree of freedom to add more covariates to the model. We conclude that while admission criteria can predict candidate success in the PPG program, we found no correlations between admission criteria and teachers' performance in the real classroom setting. And it is difficult to predict teacher performance using the pre-employment informations. We suggest that in the study, we suggest that the tests can be improved to correlate with student learning outcome, or a different selections method should be used to select teachers. So nevertheless, the study highlights the need for further research on teacher selections criteria that predict teacher performance in a real classroom setting. I guess that's all from my presentations. Thank you, Bu Titi.
Thank you very much, Bu Asri. That's excellent paper and very efficient on timing. So we still have like 16 minutes for discussion. May I invite participants to ask? There is a clarification question already from Pak Romi Hartanto. Do you want to pose your question verbally, Pak Romi, or you want me to read it?
Yes, I can read the questions.
Okay, sure.
Yes, most of the universities that we select, we do account for the program accreditations. So from the 7 universities, we select most of them are accredited A or B at the time of the surveys, which is around 2018. And if no, there are they selected intuitively in the survey? Well, basically we choose the 7 college or 7 universities based on their locations, because we thought it will be difficult to have a teacher college outside Java Island, because we will tracing the teachers or grade teacher candidates who graduates from the university. So we expect that if they graduate from 7 college in Java Island, they will have a job in the surrounding cities or districts. So it will be easy for us to visit them in the following years.
May I know where the locations?
So we have the University of Jakarta, UNJ. We also in Sanata Dharma, and we also have UPI in Bandung, and then we have in Universitas Negeri Surabaya. I think that's 4, 5. Okay, let me. Yeah. And also in Jogja, University of Jogja.
I think the bottom line is all in Java, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So thank you very much, Ibu Asri. I would like to invite other speakers, other co-authors of Asri to add any more analysis if they do have.
Yeah, I think my colleagues are in another seminar. We have a rice
Okay.
program seminar at the
Sure.
same time. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. I found your, while we are waiting for others to ask question, let me pose you some observation. I think the paper is very interesting. While you find the correlation, I mean, there is a correlation between the outcome and the pre-employment information, like the testing, the online test, and what else? The interview, right?
Yes, that's
What
correct.
I found quite puzzling is that the admission criteria are not significant because you have a limited observation. I'm wondering why on the admission regression you only have limited observation. I think I'm kind of missing the information earlier.
Yes, well, initially we want to visit the 363 graduates from the 7 teacher college, but then uh, we contact them via a phone survey, but we only able to reach around 110 graduates. So we are planning to visit them. We plan to visit them in January to March in 2020. But due to COVID, we are unable to visit all of them. Only 32 out of 110 teachers.
Okay.
That's the reason.
Unfortunately, yeah. We
Yes.
have one question from Arya Swarnata. Would you like to pose your question verbally, Pak Arya?
Okay. Yeah, I can read the questions. Do all teachers candidate have to enter PPG? In our study, the PPG programs that we observe during that time is similar with the scholarship. So people have to a bachelor's degree in education, graduates in bachelor's of educations have to uh, compete to get the scholarships to attend the PPG programs. But after 2019, the PPG programs become privately So like the teacher candidate should pay for their fee. So currently, do all teachers have to enter PPG? No, they don't have to. It's optional. They could go to straight to the workforce, getting a higher degree, like a master degree, or they could join PPG. The benefit of taking a PPG program is because they will receive a teaching certificate at the end of the programs. And the second question is there any selection bias for teachers, candidates that applying for PPG programs? I think the selection bias will come from the fact that we only receive, we only use the data for teachers who are accepted, and those teachers have minimum undergraduate GPA for 3 to 4. So we don't know if maybe teachers who have undergraduate GPA less than 3 will actually perform better than those who are accepted to the PPG program. That's the questions, Ibu Titi.
Excellent. Any more questions from the participants? We still have like 8 minutes for this paper.
Hello, sorry, may I ask a question
Yes,
verbally?
please. Sure.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, Ibu Asri. I'm sorry if I might have skipped or like understanding in this area. I'm curious about the PPG program. What are the incentive for teachers to join PPG? You mentioned that they get a teaching certificate, but is the teaching certificate that valuable for teacher candidates to want to join PPG, considering that they have to pay or compete for scholarship before 2019? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Why the teaching certificate is beneficial for these PPG graduates? Because if they are applying as civil service teachers, they will get a higher score or a full score in one of the tests. So I think in civil service teacher recruitment, there are two main tests. The first is those who related to the competency. So teachers who graduates from PPG, they have teaching certificate, and therefore they will receive a full score in their competency test. So because they are I think the government assumes that those who have a professional teaching certificate will have a better score in a competency test. And
I see. Thank you. Yeah, yes, go ahead. Sorry.
and when they are accepted as a civil service teacher, they will get the teacher allowance as soon as possible compared to the others who are not PPG graduates.
I see. So it helps them to be promoted from guru honorer, right? To become
yes.
tetap. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more? Maybe I pose my last question to close this session if there is no more question from the participants. Bu Asri, how many schools have adopted these findings in selecting their teachers?
Okay, I think I haven't briefly explained in the PowerPoint. Actually, these teacher selections is a centralized selection. So it's in 2017 and up to now. Up to 2019, it was managed by the Ministry of Research and Technology under the Dirjen Pembelajaran dan Kemahasiswaan. Currently, the centralized exam or the centralized selections is managed by the Ministry of Education and Cultures. I think it's under GTK.
So to your knowledge, do they use this in placing the teachers across the school in Indonesia?
No, they only use this to select teachers before they enter the programs. But in terms of hiring the teachers at school levels, I think schools have a different selection criteria.
Okay, so if I may conclude that the the ministry use this information in selecting or accepting the candidates for PPG, but probably not use it for employing teachers across Indonesia. Am I
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. May we give a round of applause to the speakers and the authors of this paper. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The paper, another excellent paper by, let me check. Oh, okay. Jessita Wida Ajani, Jana Firananda, and Divari Ramadan Firman. The screen are yours.
Thank you very much, Bu Titi. Can everyone hear my voice?
Yes,
Yes, we
Okay.
can. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, good afternoon, everyone. I hope that everyone is healthy and well. So today, my peers and we will present our paper entitled "A False Promise: Assessing the Impact of Decentralization on Educational Achievement Inequality." This is written by me and then my friend Givari Ramadan from Universitas Gadjah Mada and Jana Firananda from Prospera. So just to give a review or outline, so we will begin with introduction and then slide literature review, data and descriptive statistics, methodology and model, and then we will go further into the identification strategy, results discussion, as well as conclusion, policy implication, as well as recommendation. Next, please. Thank you. So first of all, it's regarding the background of the paper that we wrote. So decentralization itself refers to a term of transferring the accountability for planning, managing, as well as allocating resources from central government to subordinate units level of the government. This is written by a paper of Emilie in the year 1986. However, the discussion of decentralization itself is dated back in the year 1927. This is in accordance to Oates' paper, which is Fiscal Federalism in the year 1927. Where fiscal federalism itself is defined as a vertical financial structure evolution constituted by the public sector, with the revenue as well as expenditure assigned by various level of government. And several literatures have proven both the pros as well as the cons of the fiscal decentralization. For example, the first one is Wallman in the year 1997, which argues that fiscal decentralization benefits both local government in providing efficiency values as well as governance values. However, there are also papers such as the one written by Barden and Mukherjee in the year 2000, which disagrees upon the notion of decentralization, claiming that local capacity inequality will worsen service delivery as well as endanger the local elite capture. What about the context of Indonesia? So in accordance to law number 22 in the year 1999 and law number 32 in the 2004, Indonesia has first started decentralizing their education system in the year 2001. And the main aim is to improve quality access of education. And these are due to several considerations. For example, the fact that education has become the main focus of enhancing human capital as well as prolonged economic growth. Several papers have also argued to this extent of the argument, for example, Barrow in the year 1991, as well as Hanushakimko in the year 2000. And these arguments have resulted in a rapid increase of public investment in the education sector, where the education expenditure nationally have increased almost 11-fold from the year 2001 until the year 2016. Next, please. However, despite intense efforts from the government to prioritize education in both the national as well as the local level, the results as well as the evidence have supported otherwise. For example, we can see that the trends in the International Mathematics and Science Study, or the TIMSS score, showed that the 8th grade students in Indonesia were only ranked 38 out of 42 countries participating in the assessment. We can also see from the graph above that only 9 provinces in Indonesia managed to obtain higher score than the national average of 51.84, leaving provinces such as Papua, Aceh, and West Sulawesi as the 3 provinces with the lowest average. Now, if we talk about learning outcome profiles, several evidence, such as the one written by Suryahadi and Sambodo in the year 2013, have also argued that Indonesia has a weak performance in the 8th grade math, and this is strengthened by a decreasing team score between the year 2003 as well as 2011. Next, please. Therefore, the research problem that we found as a theme is that most studies on decentralization, especially in Indonesia, they only analyze the impact of decentralization only on the fiscal as well as social dimension. There is no to very little substantial research on decentralization impacts on educational outcomes in Indonesia. Therefore, the research paper, we aim to argue and then assess Indonesia's educational achievement inequality and exploit the introduction of decentralization impact on educational achievement gap. Next, please. So to be able to understand the context of the research further, I would like to briefly explain the literature review that we did. So we find several papers which supported the idea of fiscal decentralization on educational achievement, such as the one written by Fage and Sanchez, which mentioned that decentralization improves student enrollment in public school in Colombia. Fiscal decentralization is also said to have a positive impact in increasing student performance in mathematics, as well as regarding the studies in Indonesia. We find from Simatupang in the 2009 paper that more than 50% of municipalities in Indonesia experience improvements in education outcomes due to higher responsiveness to local needs, as well as enhanced government accountability. On the contrary, we also mention and find several other papers which disagrees upon the notion of decentralization, such as the fact that decentralization did not have an imminent effect in improving academic outcomes. Next, please. So the data set that we use is from community facility data from the IFLS 1 until the IFLS Wave 5. And the total number of both the MOEC, or Ministry of Education, Culture, and private schools observed in each wave is consistent at around 1,250 MOEC schools and 600 private schools in each wave. Next, please. So for the method and model, my peer Givari will explain further. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. So I think for the methodology and the model, we want to estimate the impact of the decentralization treatment towards the achievement on schools. So we use the difference in different settings. So we want to compare between the private and public school pre and post decentralization. But we also suspected that the performance between the public and the private school might be differ due to the location of the school. So for example, we know that, I'm sorry, the host has stopped my sharing. Hello?
Can someone help the screen?
Okay. Someone has stopped my sharing, so I will continue my explanation. So
It's already here.
Okay. So we suspected that there might be difference between schools in urban and rural areas due to the effect of decentralization towards the development of rural and urban area. We know that decentralization gives regional more discretion for autonomy. So we suspected that there might be an effect from the type of the place towards the education achievement. Hence, we use the triple difference in different setting. So we want to disentangle the effects of decentralization by delving more on the geographic aspect of urban and rural area, as well as the type of the schools too. So we use also fixed effect, I think, to control the time invariant differences which vary among schools, and also we cluster the robust standard error on the level of the community ID. Okay, so basically this is the model. So we have the dummy variable for the private and public school, which is value to 1 if the school is MOEC. MOEC is the Ministry of Education School of the public school. And then we have the post variable for the DID setup. We also have the urban dummy, which is equal to 1 if they are located in the urban area and 0 otherwise of the rural area. And our variable of interest is shown by the beta 7. I'm sorry, the estimator of interest is beta 7, which is the triple interaction between the urban dummy, MOEC dummy, and also the post dummy. And we also include some control variables to enhance the estimation. So that is our identification strategy. We identify the groups categorized as treatment and control. So we have two types of treatment here. First, the urban and rural area. The second is the MOEC and the public and private school. Okay. And following the paper written by Lear, 2016, the treatment group in this sense will be schools that implemented decentralization, which are school organized by MOEC and district offices. And meanwhile, the control group will be the schools that did not experience decentralization. And for the urban and rural area, we think that might be convergence of growth from the rural area caused by autonomy, extra autonomy from decentralization. It might affect the performance of the students in the rural area as well. And so for the results and discussion, I think I will go briefly on this. So first, our variable of interest is the interaction term. So we divide the results into two independent variables. First for the mathematics and the second for Bahasa Indonesia. So first for the MOEC interaction with urban, we find no significant evidence, which means there is no relationship between the MOEC and urban. And the second, we look at the MOEC and time post. We look at that and we see that there is negative, decentralization is negatively associated with education achievement from students from public school. So might be very interesting. And then for the urban and post, we also see that there is an association as well, for a negative association between education achievement from urban area and decentralization. But if we interact all of those variable of interests from MOEC, urban and post, we find no evidence, which means that the transmission effect for the decentralization to affect the education achievement from the MOEC and the urban is not through the interaction term of the MOEC and urban. So there might be other factors that can explain why the MOEC or the public school performance after decentralization is relatively lower compared to the counterpart of the private school. Okay, so this is the discussion, but I will skip to the conclusion and recommendation for the time constraint. So by employing several models for the full sample, we imply that there is negative and significant impact of decentralization on student average test score, but it is for the public and private school and also for the urban and rural area. So private schools seem to benefit more from decentralization compared to public school, as shown by the catching up effect. Okay, so and we also acknowledge that factors like low local capacity as well as function mismatch between the central and local government can serve as the main argument behind the worsened UN score after decentralization. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that we measure the student achievement through UN score, and we standardize the UN score based on every province every year, every week. And public schools in urban areas had lower UN score post decentralization. However, this is not related to the process of decentralization due to the statistically significant differences there. And maybe to clarify each government level function, thematic information and decisions need to be possessed by both central and local government. I think this is really important for the upcoming education development in Indonesia. And in dealing with lack of local capacity, the government needs to create a clear pathway and protocol design in regards to basic minimum service standards and all data management skill and standard, as well as ensuring higher focus in delivering educational service. And also the government, lastly, needs to engage in extensive educational quality, such as the monitoring and evaluation efforts. So, but and for the research limitation, we acknowledge that IFLS might not be the best in representing private and public school in Indonesia due to the limited data coverage. We all know that IFLS only cover for like 13 provinces in Indonesia, although it is very representative in the level of Indonesia. But if we take it more into the provincial level or more sub sample analysis, it won't be representative anymore. And for the research, maybe we combine IFLS household data for more control variables with the COMPAS data, and also we can combine with other ranges of IFL school level data such as vocational school and primary school. So thank you for your attention, and maybe I will jump for our appendix. So this is the descriptive statistic. We can say that the score is higher post decentralization, but after we look at the more causality way, we won't find any other same story like this. And also for the mathematics, it is lower after the decentralization for the rural and urban area. And then for the type of the school, post decentralization implies higher score. And then for the state and private school, whereas for the mathematics, is lower for the private still. And so we also check for the parallel trend for the mathematics in Bahasa Indonesia between the both group, between the public and private school, and for the mathematics Bahasa Indonesia, and we can see there is parallel trend. So we can use the difference in differences setting to analyze the impact, and also the same as urban and rural, there is parallel trend too. Okay, that is all for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Givari, Jessica, and Jana. Excellent paper. So I would like to invite participants to ask or any questions by raising hands or just directly. This is parallel session, so it's not many of us here. Please, you are welcome to just speak out. If I may ask, yes, Bapak Matondang, Ibu Matondang, sorry, your last name, Matondang, please.
Thank you very much, Bu Titi, for the opportunity. I would like to ask the presenter regarding the methodology. Why do you use the three interaction terms? And if I'm not mistaken, can we go back to the result? If I'm not mistaken, it will be very hard to explain a three-way interaction term. Okay, especially when for the mathematics and the Bahasa Indonesia, the three-way interaction terms is not significant. So if it's not significant, I don't think it's necessary to do that, because if it's not significant, it is stated in the theory that two-way ANOVA method will be sufficient to do that. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Just answer directly, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu. So yeah, maybe because of the triple interaction is not significant, hence it might be useful to be displayed. But I think this is a very interesting question, because we want to know whether, because decentralization actually, we know that from many papers that decentralization push more convergence from the rural area towards the urban area. We all know that. So we want to know whether this convergence of the convergence of the region actually affects the education achievement too, and it turns out it doesn't have any effect. Maybe it's not that interesting because it's not significant, but we think that it would be useful if we display this triple interaction, because we will know that, oh, so the channel of the double interaction for the MOEC transpose and the urban transpose is not affected by the interaction of the urban and the MOEC. So there is, I think there is no what you call it, relationship between the MOEC and urban that they affect each other. So there might be other channel that can affect the education achievement, and that would be a great research opportunity. So we want to know what are the causes of the negatively associated of the public school achievement post decentralization era. Maybe Jessica, do you want to add something?
I think your explanation is enough. Givari, I would actually answer another question by Bu Evi from the chat box. So Bu Evi asked, can we explain more about the private schools catching up effect and what is the channeling mechanism in which we can say or claim that decentralization actually benefits private school better as compared to public school? So because our decentralization is not significant and it's negative, it doesn't mean that the score of the UN score pre and post is decreasing. However, we can see that the trend for the private schools seems to be more increasing as compared to the trend of the public schools. So we did a literature review to really understand the mechanism and the channeling mechanism of why private schools seems to benefit more. And we find several arguments regarding this matter. The first one is that because private schools, they depend less on district government, and because they depend less on district government, they do not have to face several restrictions regarding both financial planning as well as school management. And moreover, private schools, they also tend to have higher capacity to allocate resources based on the needs of the school, as opposed to the public schools, which have stricter rules, stricter regulations on the budget allocation governed by the MOEC. And second one is we find in a paper written by Sari that teacher working hours is actually one of the possible mechanism of this transition between private and public school, which can be compared. So teacher working hours shift prominently increasing as compared to public schools after decentralization. So this might be one possible mechanism that can affect the increasing score or the increasing trend of private school as compared to public school. And the third reason is that there is a possible collusion between district as well as village officials, which basically affect the preference shift in allocating resources, especially both financial and community resources to private school as compared to public school. Thank you, Bu Evi, for the question.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, another question in the chat box. Do you want to pose the question verbally? Khalifani?
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity, moderator. So I will answer the Khalifani question. So in what level did you cluster standard error? So we cluster it in the level of the district because we look at the implementation of decentralization that they give more discretion to the district. Hence, we cluster it in the level of district. Yeah. So
okay,
that's our answer.
Very good. Any more questions? Oh, that's Ibu Elsa.
Okay.
Silakan.
Okay, thank you, Bu Elsa. Okay.
So just clarification. Thank you very much. Nice paper.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Bu Elsa. I think it is a really nice suggestion, but maybe we can discuss it more with the team too. But thank you very much.
We can continue in the chat room in our WOFA, right? So excellent presentation for Jessica, Gifari, and Jana. If I don't see any more questions, shall we end this session, this paper? Please. Okay, there is another question. I think there will be the last question for you. Silakan. Dari Wening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wening. Yeah, I think that is a really great suggestion that, yeah, this is a really good suggestion that, yeah, maybe we need to put control for the post program because the IFLS actually captures the post program for the school. And yeah, I think we need to include the post program. And maybe we can also, if we look at the IFLS for, I think for the way for, at the individual level, we also have information for BLSM. I think that would be great to be included since BLSM is administered by each school. But this is a really good suggestion. Thank you, Winnie.
Maybe a slight addition, Givari. Thank you very much, Winnie, for the clarification and for the suggestion. So actually, regarding the impact of other policies at similar timing, we understand that BOS also took place in the 2005. However, our argument is that both private schools and MOEC schools, they benefit equally and they both receive bus funds. Therefore, any changes which is found among MOEC schools can only be attributed to the changes in the district governance rather than the school inputs. Thank you for the suggestions still.
All right, we still have 4 minutes for this paper. Can you can you show the result of your regression again, Jessica? I found this is quite what is it? Depressing that in the post decentralization we have lower performance, right, in our students, shown especially in the public school, especially in the urban area. Am I correctly interpreting your result?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, Bu.
yes.
Yeah. So we are not successful with the centralization. Am I right?
Yes, that's our
In
conclusion.
mathematics, yeah. In mathematics, I only
Mhm.
see the mathematics. In Bahasa, I think it's also, yeah, MOEC times post is also negative. I saw there. And the other things that is also a bit depressing for me is that the teacher's experience is negatively correlated with performance. It means that the more the more senior the teacher, the less successful our students in attaining their math and bahasa skills. Am I right?
Yes,
Yes,
Bu. Mhm.
Yes.
but
Okay.
but
How do you
maybe the
explain that?
relationship, but maybe the relationship actually is quadratic. So for the first phase of the teacher experience, it might be positively correlated, but as the teachers getting old, it is negative correlated. But maybe we need to disentangle more
Okay,
to
because
try
this is
the,
not quadratic, right? In
yes, this
your
is not
regression is,
quadratic.
yeah. So maybe explore more, because this is very depressing for me with our education system. But anyway, this is a very good paper and endeavor. So please continue, and let's have a chat later on sometimes in yeah, in other occasion. Okay, with that, let me conclude this session, the presentation. Please join me to give a big applause to the three speakers, the three authors. Let me continue with our third but not least paper, and another interesting paper on the conditional cash transfer. How whether it changed the educational aspiration among the recipients or the family members of the recipient. Without further ado, let me invite the speakers and authors, Bapak Romi Bakti Hartanto and Bapak Muhammad. Silakan, the screen are yours.
Okay, so is my screen visible? Just to make sure.
Yes, clearly.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Romi. I'm from Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. I'm doing this paper with my colleague from STP Mataram. He is Muhammad Azizur Rahman. And on this occasion, I would like to disseminate the preliminary finding of our research titled "Does Conditional Cash Transfer Change Educational Aspirations? Evidence from Indonesia." And these are the highlights of our study. Basically, our study aims to evaluate the impact of the Indonesian Cct program on education aspirations. Our Our research finds that the Cct program has increased education aspirations by half to 0.9 schooling years in Indonesia. And based on this research, the policy view, and based on the research of this research, the policy viewpoint would be that the Cct program may influence behavioral outcome through change in aspiration of the program beneficiaries. And human capital is considered as the most effective way to alleviate poverty. However, poor households often underinvest in human capital. This is potentially because of their low educational aspirations. And there are three mechanisms of underlying uh, low aspirations toward education among the poor. So the first one is that the poor are more likely to experience psychological distress, and this would shape their pessimistic expectation about the future. The second one is that is misinformation about returns to education because of uncertain labor market outcome in the future and time impatience of the poor. The poor tend to send their children in labor market rather than in school. And the third one is the exposure to disadvantaged environment, given that the poor are more likely to have few positive role models. And existing literature suggests the positive association between parents' educational aspiration and children's educational outcomes, as well as labor supply. Thus, it is important to help the poor to elevate their aspirations toward education, since it would have a positive impact on poverty alleviation. And Cct here comes as an important instrument to improve human capital of the households. Extensive evidence that conditional cash transfer program, extensive evidence suggests that the conditional cash transfer program, or CCT, have changed behavior of their recipients through higher attendance and school enrollment of their children. However, little is known whether it comes from change in aspirations. Therefore, this study examines whether the CCT program has effect on educational aspirations of poor parents for their children. So far, there are only few studies, most closely related to us, and focus more on Latin America. Yet, no empirical evidence regarding this matter in Asia. And now we are talking about the CCT program in Indonesia. It is Family Hope Program. It is the first Indonesian CCT program established in 2007. The program is targeted to poor households aiming to improve human capital quality. So the program provides financial support so long as the conditions are met. And one of the conditions here is that the household with school-aged children are required to send their children to school and make sure their attendance with minimum 85% in a month. And these program conditions were monitored by program facilitators. And compared to several countries in Latin America, transfer effectiveness ratio of Indonesian CCT program is among the highest with respect to an increase in children's participation at school. And the program is found to be successful in increasing net enrollment rate and gross participation rate. Even the program has positive impact on academic performance of the children in both primary and junior secondary level. The program also has been successful in eliminating half of non-enrollment with the strongest impact on children aged 15 to 17. Overall, none of the studies do not address whether the family hope program influences educational aspirations of its recipients. And we are using the data from Indonesian Family Life Survey. The sample of our data consists of households living in 13 out of 27 provinces in 1993, and our sample represents 83% of Indonesia's population. We focus on treated households, or those are reported to receive Cct program in IFLS 5 in 2014. The outcome here is educational aspiration of the parents for their children. And this outcome is retrieved by a questionnaire that asks the parents to state their education aspirations for all of their children aged 7 to 24 years living in the same household. And here's the question, like, what is her highest education level do you expect, and what his or her highest class level do you expect? And since our analysis at the household level, we use the maximum years of education that the respondent has declared for any children. So suppose that there are 5 children in the household, then we are only using the data of maximum years of education that is aspired by the parents. So we are not using education aspiration for its children, but we only select the one with the highest education aspiration by the parents. And we only consider sample with complete response for such question in both IFLS 4 and 5. This results in final sample consisting of around 3,300 households, with 150 households are reported to be Cct recipients. And this study aims to determine changes in educational aspirations that can be attributed to the Family Hope program. And the participation of the program is not random, so it is based on eligibility criteria of the households. Like, to be recipients of the program, the household need to have pregnant mothers and or children age 0 to 15 years old. And various indicators in proxy means test to identify whether the households are poor or not, because the target of the program are poor households. And so that any observed and unobserved factors determining program participation may cause bias in our estimation. And we account for potential bias due to observable factors using PSM by balancing the observed characteristic between program participant and non-participant groups. And the method constructs a comparison group of non-participants with observable characteristics that are statistically similar on average to those of program participants. And we estimate the propensity of program participation in 2014 using a Probit model based on pre-program characteristics in 2007 to ensure exogeneity. And then we use the estimated propensity score to match between beneficiary and non-beneficiary household. And since matching technique is sensitive, then we implement several matching techniques to match the propensity score, such as nearest neighbor, caliper radius, and kernel. And we generate scatter plot of the standardized bias against variance ratio of residuals to compare covariate imbalance before and after matching. Furthermore, we use the ID to account for any time invariant unobservable factors that potentially bias our estimates. And this combination can sweep out time invariant component of unobserved characteristics. However, selection bias is not entirely removed in our analysis, so that we calculate the Rosenbaum bonds for the treatment effects to assess this bias. And these are the summary statistics of variables that were used to estimate the propensity score. And there is an educational the educational aspirations of in our full sample is quite high, so it's 13 years of schooling. It is equivalent to first year at a college degree. So education aspiration of our full sample is already high, like they expect their children to finish, to at least finishing their senior secondary school, or at least enroll at tertiary degree. However, the CCT recipients aspire their children to be at least in the end level of senior secondary school. So it's almost 12 years. So we can see that the CCT recipients tend to have lower education aspiration of their children compared to our full sample. And these are the propensity score estimation. Like we can see that there is an observable difference between program participant and non-program participants reported in our sample. Suppose that the program participants tend to have a household head with lower level of schooling years and older household head, higher dependency ratio, having a house with a wall not been built by the brick, uh, cook with firewood, live in urban and in Java. And this is the covariate distribution by matching technique. And based on this figure, we can see that the treated group and the match control group are already comparable as seen by the lower standard bias. Our standardized bias, like it is adjacent to 0 for all matching techniques, and the distribution of propensity score track each other quite closely between the treated and match control group across all specifications of matching techniques here. And this is the PSMDID result. And it's been found that CCT program in Indonesia has increased parental aspirations for the children by half to up to 1 year of schooling. Okay, and this result is comparable with similar program of CCT in Mexico named Progresa. CCT program in Mexico has increased in education aspirations by 0.3 to 0.5 schooling years. And this result indicates a good sign for policy viewpoint. So it means that the channeling becomes clearer in a sense that how conditional cash transfer can improve school enrollment and school attendance of the children. So the CCT program can change the mindset of the beneficiary parents, and they aspire their children to aim education higher based on this result. And however, so after performing Rosenbaum bounds analysis, the estimated tolerant bounds here is relatively small. So our results here potentially sensitive to hidden bias. And this should be cautiously interpreted since this is just a preliminary result. And so what we conclude based on our finding here, so living in poverty has caused the poor to have limited aspiration, and this may lead to underinvestment in children's education. And the CCT program in Indonesia, or Family Hope Program, comes to be one instrument to help the poor escape from poverty by dispersing cash handouts conditional on behavioral change in health and education. And several studies found that the Family Hope Program has achieved higher school enrollment and attendance. However, there is no evidence so far about the impact on education aspirations. And it's important to find the effect of the program on education aspirations, because if the program has successfully changed the mindset of the beneficiaries, then it may persist, in a sense that if the program is terminated, then they would invest more on children's education. Like, it will be less likely to make the education behavior change to pre-intervention level. And our study shows that beneficiary households of the Family Hope program have higher educational aspiration for their children up to one schooling year. However, this result doesn't allow us to identify the driving force behind the change in educational aspirations. So we cannot find out why the driving force of the beneficiary parents has changed the mindset due to this program setting, whether it comes from the strict monitoring of the program or the money dispersed to them or other activities that complement the program. Thus, in terms of impact evaluation study of Family Hope program, this should be addressed in future research. So I guess that's all.
Thank you very much. Excellent paper. May I invite the participants to pose any questions to the authors of this paper? Okay, while we are waiting for the participants to pose their question, may I ask you to bring out again your conclusion slide?
Okay.
What is the difference between the second paragraph, the third paragraph, the third sentence, and the fourth sentence?
Okay, so the third sentence comes from previous studies.
Oh, I
And the
see.
fourth
Okay.
sentence comes from our result.
Oh, I see. So your result is very contrast to the previous studies, the finding. Am I right?
Not really. It's not contrasting. My result even supports the previous finding.
But the third sentence says that there is no evidence about the impact on educational aspiration. Is it typo or?
No. I mean, no evidence here is that because there are no previous studies.
I see.
Yes, analyzing the impact on educational aspiration.
Okay. So your study is the first to show the impact of the Pekaha program on schooling aspiration of the parents. Am I right?
Yep.
Yeah. So not only the Pekaha program increase the school attendance, but also increase the aspiration of the parents.
Yep.
I think those two results are very important for for the program, for the program evaluation. Because as you know, Pekaha program address the lowest, the bottom 10% of our households in terms of per capita income. So how would you convey your result of research to the policy makers? It means that what is the implication of your research to policy making?
I mean, like with the conditions imposed by the program, then it has been found to be successfully manipulating the mindset of the program beneficiaries, so that they aspire the education level of their children more, and this is good thing, because if the program is terminated, then the mindset has been in shape. So it is expected that their aspiration of their children, I mean, like, it wouldn't change that much their aspiration of children's education.
So you mean if the program terminated or when they graduated from Pekaha, the aspiration is still there?
Yes.
Can I conclude that way?
Yes.
Okay. So is there, let me check whether there is any discussion or questions for you. Okay, so while we're waiting for the others to post question, I would like to ask you whether this aspiration, an increase of by 1 year, right? So it's much higher than what you found in other countries' result, and but it only up to the second year of senior high. If I saw your data, the average of schooling is only up to the year 8, yeah?
No. So
The average, the average schooling in your data set is 8 years?
No, it's around 11 years for program participants.
All for program participants.
Yes.
But the IFL's data is 8 years, am I right? The mean?
The mean is 11, but the additional schooling years of parental education increases by 0.5 to 0.9 schooling years.
0.5 to 0.9,
yes.
The increase. Okay, right. Sorry for my confusion.
No problem. I think I'm a bit too fast in explaining.
Okay, so I think I found your research very useful because we are also evaluating the Pekaha program from time to time. So if you allow me, I will contact you later.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So if there is any more, if there is no more questions for Pak, okay, Pusat KPMAK, please, if you want to pose any questions, we still have 4 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Nice presentation, Romy.
Thank you very much.
I'm Pugo. Actually, I would like to. I don't know how to use you already mentioned about the hidden in the Rosen bound test. Can you explain me more, and elaborate more on that at that point? Because you said that we have to carefully, interpret the estimation because of that it might have a hidden bias. Please.
Oh yeah, so it is based on the value of the estimated tolerance bound. So 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 are considered small in other studies, and because it is considered small, then it is potentially sensitive to hidden bias. So there might be a potential time varying components of unobservable characteristics that may influence the outcome of our analysis. And I think there are no thresholds to evaluate whether this bond is small or not. So it is just.
So there is no no benchmark on this.
No benchmark,
part.
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't have any experience to using this.
Yes. Thank you.
have one more question on the chat room, so let me read it for you. So what do you think of this program Pekaha? Should be continued with the same target until they graduate, or should be expand to other beneficiaries?
I think this program has been, first of all, thank you very much for the question. I think this program has been gradually expanding to other types of beneficiaries, like not only poor households with pregnant mothers and or infants or school-age children, but it has been expanded to elder people and disabilities. And I think it's a good thing. So why not expanding the program to other beneficiaries so that there are more people that deserve for government's money that we spend for the tax.
Thank you very much. So, any more feedback to Pak Romi Hartanto? Okay, so I think I should congratulate all the contributors to this session. This session I found very useful and timely and important as well, because it talks about our education system and how our or ways we can improve. From the first paper, the selection process is important to determine the outcome of the education later on. And from the second paper, we know that decentralization, apparently in the post-decentralization, the performance of our students are not better than before, especially in the urban area. And from the third paper, we found that the Pekaha program not only increase students' attendance a school year, but also increase the parents' aspiration of sending their kids to school. So with that, I conclude this session and give highest appreciation to the contributors and the participants. See you in the next sessions.